Hey guys, this is Jaden Storm, coaching Team Shadowstrike, and yeah, I know it's been another long period since I posted another video for you guys, but it's work, school, life, it's all been very, very busy and very, very hectic, and I'm sorry about that because I always want to continue to make videos for you guys, but it just life. I had last week around this time, I was having a pretty bad week. My teammates know a little bit about that. One of my friends that I've gotten really close to through YouTube actually knows a lot about that as well, and it's really means a lot, guys, that I do have this. That you guys, those of you who did talk to me during that specific week, it really meant a lot. And thanks for all your support. But I'm glad I'm back because this is what I love doing. And now that I'm back, we have 5 new deck profiles. Now there are some decks that people have requested. I got a deck profile request a couple of days ago. I'm still trying to workshop an idea into that. So keep in mind, guys, you can always request a certain video that you would like to see. I'm always open to your ideas. So I just randomize these. So I don't even remember what's in this deck box because there's one of 2 decks that could be in this one. So let's see what you guys are getting. Okay, so this one is going to be revisiting Narukami. This is revisiting my the Vanquisher Crimson deck that I made for you guys a long time ago. And I made some changes to it and play tested it, and this build works a lot better. It's a lot more consistent. So I'm going to just get straight into this. So here we go. So, for the starting Vanguard, we have switched over to Lizard Soldier Seishin. Now, Lizard Soldier Seishin, wow, that's a tongue twister. And I also have a burn on the top of my mouth. So, from the other night when I ate my food too fast and didn't give it time to cool. So if I slur my words a little bit, I'm not drunk. I just have I have a burn on the top of my mouth, and it hurts like a son of a gun. So anyway, Seishin. This came out of set 6. I like this a lot better. Basically what he does, if you don't remember, he still has the Forerunner skill. So grade 1 Narukami rides him, slide him back. Then if he boosts a successful attack that hits your opponent's Vanguard, you may counterblast 1, put him in the Soul, and retire one of your opponent's grade 0 rear guards. So you can use this in the early stage of the game to pick off your opponent's starters, so I really like this. I was using the Legion one, the Brawler fighting Draco Kid, and that just wasn't doing anything unless I was in Legion, so I really didn't see the point of it anymore, so I switched to this. So for triggers, 4 of my favorite Narukami critical triggers: Spark Edge, Draco Kid, then 2 original Yellow Carbuncle, 2 Eradicator Carbuncle, 4 Blue Carbuncle for draws, and 4 Green Carbuncle. So you kind of see the theme of what I was going for. So play all the Carbuncles and my favorite Narukami trigger. So 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. Next, we play 4 Wyvern Guard Gold. This is the only thing about this deck that I don't like. I have only 2 Narukami G Perfects. I think her name is Natasha. I need to get 2 more, and I plan to very soon. But I don't see the point of playing 2-2. I just don't. So until then, until I get my playset of the G Perfects, I'm just going to play these. So, but. Nothing much more to say about Perfect Guards. They are needed. Next, we play 4 Mighty Bolt Draco Kid, Mighty Bolt Dragoon. Vanquisher is now probably the main boss in this deck. Crimson is more of just the game finisher. Especially with the new Vanquisher Stride coming out in set 5, that I'm really interested to find out what he does. So I have changed this deck up a little bit. It no longer plays 9 grade 3s like my last one did, and even though that build still technically works, there wasn't a problem with it theoretically or even statistically, because I never was grade stuck and I always got what I wanted. I decided to go back to my standard grade ratios, and this deck is working a lot better in the current format, which this current format, it focuses on having a certain board, and this version of my Narukami deck is literally meant to screw with any formation, period. So for of this, just simply because we always want to be able to stride and to search out our Vanquishers. So then we play 3 Ton for Brawler Arc. I know I said that Crimson is only a finisher in this deck now, so the reason he's still in here is because there's really another good grade 1 that I could figure out to play other than this, because most of the rest of them is all Eradicator support, but this still works because it's still a good solid 7k boost. You know, some people suggested that I play the Narukami Generation Break 1 10k attacker, grade 1, that where if he attacks the Vanguard he gains +3, but I just don't like that. And I still am playing 3 copies of Eggshell, Eradicator Egg Helm Draco Kid. Again, just in case for some weird reason, I get Crimson first and I don't get this, I can at least start using his Limit Break as soon as possible. I assume with set 5 these cards might get replaced because since set 5 has more Narukami support, these will probably get replaced, but for now they work just fine. So grade 2s. We play 3 Dragonic Death Scythe. So I cut one of my Death Scythes because I found playing 4 is good, you know, especially in the 9 grade 3 build because I like barely counterblasted at like not at all in that deck. Like I don't think anything counterblasted except my starter. And then the original Vermilion, which I never used his skill unless it was with Crimson. So you were able to abuse Death Scythe as, you know, pretty much as frivolously as you wanted. And I could still technically play 4 in this deck. It doesn't counterblast that much. It counterblasts a quite fair amount more, but it doesn't. It still is controlled. Actually, the only cards in this deck that counterblast is my starter, and you know, and then some of my grade 2s. So that's about it. But I cut one Death Scythe, and if you guys remember, I was playing 3 copies of the grade 2 version of him. That is the mate for Shotgun Blow that came out in Fighters Collection a couple of years ago. And instead, I play 3 copies of Demonic Dragon Berserker Garuda. This is a really good card for your grade 2 ride, because if you have this behind your Vanguard and you attack and your opponent lets it hit, or they guard for 1 to pass and you trigger and you hit them, you can counterblast one, put them in the soul, pop their starter, and then he lets you unflip it right back. So you can essentially get it off for free. And you can use this just to unflip some damage, just so, because we always like having face-up damage. Like I said, the only card, all of my grade 2s, they either counterblast or unflip, and this is the one unflipper. All the rest of my grade 2s do counterblast, so he's in here just to help balance out the counterblasting a little bit. So by having him and soon the G-Perfects, the counterblasting that I do have in this deck really won't matter that much, because it'll all level out statistically. And then I play 3 copies of Demonic Dragon Berserker Chatara. I really, really like this card. Now, it is true that while he's on a rearguard circle, he cannot attack another rearguard, so all he can do is attack the Vanguard. But whenever he does attack the Vanguard, he gains 3,000 power, and if his attack hits, you can counterblast 1, draw 1 card, and you get to bind something from your opponent's drop zone. So he does a lot. So if you're playing against any Legion deck, this card instantly is a threat. And you can... There have been times where, in playtesting, I rode this, and then called 2 of these, and one of them had a booster. So, you know... Now you're looking at 3 big attacks, because if you go first and you're on it's the 3rd turn and you get to ride grade 2 first, you call 2 of these and your opponent, for say, rode a perfect guard, these things swing for 11, so you can really, really swarm your opponent fast. So I like him a lot, and also with Conquest in the late game when you conquest, and he becomes an instant 21 by himself, because he's going to go to 18 because of the 10k boost if you clear out the entire front row, which is real easy to do in this build. So he goes to 18, and then when he attacks, he goes to 21. So this card is very crucial to the deck. He is very important. You could arguably say play 4 of this, but I think 3 is enough because I wanted to have room to play one other card, and that is 2 copies of Voltage Horned Dragon. This card is also really good. Whenever he Generation Break 1, whenever this unit attacks a Vanguard, if it is boosted, you may counterblast 1, and your opponent must select one of their rear guards on the field and bind it. So you can use some of these effects to systematically destroy your opponent's board. You can say call it Death Scythe, kill off a booster, and then use this to kill something else. I mean, you really can just start picking your opponent's field apart, and it's very frustrating for them and difficult to deal with. With Aqua Force getting more support and going to be more prevalent, this deck specifically would screw with them. So it's a very good build for... Actually, this build in general, it is meant to just screw with formations, period. Then for grade 3s, we play 3 copies of Dragonic Vanquisher. So I play 3 Vanquisher now. I would have played 3 originally, I think, honestly, eventually, but I had 2 for the longest time, and then I was able to track down a 3rd, which is how many I wanted anyway. But Vanquisher is a really, really underrated card, in my opinion, but he's also, he's in my opinion, he's very, very good. I love him. Generation Break 2, which I've never found myself using, honestly. Whenever one of your opponent's rear guards is put into the drop zone by one of your card effects, he gains 3,000 power and +1 critical. So that's there, but I have never used it once. His stride ability is why we love him. Whenever you stride onto him, you may counterblast 1 and bind 1 rear guard in your opponent's front row. So if your opponent has 2 units in the front row and this is your Vanguard and you stride into Conquest, you can counterblast 1, bind 1 of the units in your opponent's front row, then use Conquest skill to Persona Flip or Generation Blast, whatever you want to call it, and destroy the other one, and then all of a sudden your front row gains 10k. So that's there. So, but we still play 3 copies of Dragonic Kaiser Crimson and 2 copies of Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion. So we all know what Kaiser does. Crimson does. He mates with Vermilion. And Limit Break 4, you can basically Vermilion Thunderbolt for free. And then you can also Soul Blast 1 for him to gain 2,000 power, which I do like, because sometimes if I want to Legion a card in the Soul back, I can ride, Soul Blast it out, and then Legion. So that's the grade 3s. And I'm also very interested to find out what the Vanquisher Stride does. His name is Voltage. Sounds really cool. Okay, now I will warn you guys, this is going to probably be the most boring G deck that you can imagine, because all I do is I play 4 copies of Lightning Dragon Knight Zoros, and 4 Conquering Supreme Dragon, Conquest Dragon. Now, I know this is extremely boring as opposed to not having many options, but to be real honest, Narukami doesn't really have a lot of options at Strides that are considered good. Now, I know that they got some help, you know, from the Viters collection, and you still have access to cards like Blizza, because I was actually playing 1 Blizza. But this card is so pressurizing, because there's still lots of Legion decks that run around, and there's also the new Genesis deck that can essentially Legion with the stand trigger. So this card alone is such a threat that they don't want it to hit, period. So this card can bluff out perfects when they essentially don't want to use them yet, because they want to save them for your later Strides, but they don't want to have to kill one of their own rear guards and lose 2 cards out of their drop zone. So in my honest opinion, while this may seem linear, it works, because I can't tell you how many times I've play tested against people at my locals. I was play testing against someone who was playing Royal Paladin, and it was a Sing Saber variant, and basically every time I started, it went stride, 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 and until finally, this card is just so pressurizing. Out of all the rare G units that there have been, this by far is one of the best ones, if not the best. And then Conquering Supreme Dragon, Conquest Dragon, what he does, basically, you may Generation Blast, flip a copy of him face up, and destroy a unit in your opponent's front row. And then if the number of face up cards in your G zone is 2 or more, your entire front row gains 5k for each open slot in your opponent's front row. So, if he is your Vanguard, Stride, Counterblast 1 for the Stride skill, banish, bind one of them, and then use Conquest to flip a copy of him face up and kill the other one, and your entire front row gains 10,000 power, which can be a huge boost. So, anyway, guys, that is my Narukami Vanquisher deck that I've been playing around with. It's a lot of fun. It's extremely consistent. It's very anti-meta-ish, for the simple fact being that Vanquisher just really screws with formations, and this deck, that's how I have it set up. I just really have been enjoying playing it. It's a lot of fun. It's there's just so many decks that it does hurt. So I really enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. So in the comment section below, tell me, what do you think about this build? Do you like it? Just give me your opinion on it, guys. Always love to hear your thoughts. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up this video for me, and I'll see you next time.